Welcome back, Joe Blasco, once again here with Ms. Kelcey Fry, who has just come out to the entire world.
Well,
And
start somewhere.
So yeah, I think you're kind of ending it here. No, you've already started it years and years ago, and it hasn't affected you in any way.
No.
You're just kind of like saying, hey, this is how it is, baby, and if you don't like it, get off.
I don't think, wait a second, I just want to say, I don't feel like it's if you don't like it, get off. I say that I decided for myself that I was not going to let that be a hurdle to get in the way of me living my life.
I agree.
And I had to take, as you know, and it's not necessarily up for discussion,
yes,
but you and I have shared a moment that I'm very proud of, that I was able to prove who I am and what I am, and not based on my sexuality.
Absolutely, and it should never be based upon your sexuality.
But you know what I'm talking about,
yes,
and we'll discuss that on another show.
Yeah, that'll be the subject of another show. And believe me, you're going to want to tune in for that one.
Because that was a proud moment for me.
Excellent.
Don't forget that.
All right, sweetie. Now let's keep it together.
So my first film, you were asking.
Yeah,
about
let's go to the first film.
Well, I need to take you on a little journey here because I didn't have a first film. I had a first opportunity, and that was because of you. I'll never forget. And I just want to kind of get into this a little bit. As I came to inquire about going to the school, I remember it was a very pivotal moment in my life because I came out of nowhere. I came to the school, I applied, and I left the building with a job.
Yes.
And I remember standing out on Sunset Boulevard thinking to myself, crying a little bit, going, how does that happen? Only in Hollywood that you go to school, you go to apply for a school, and by the time you leave, you have a job teaching in the school.
I'm glad you clarified that because when she mentioned Sunset Boulevard, I wasn't quite sure where you were going with that job. So
that was your school.
I know. I'm just kidding.
But the pivotal moment was after being trained to teach and working as a teacher for beauty for quite a while.
Yes.
You invited me when your membership to the local 706, you were the craft president, and you had a craft meeting, which I didn't really know what those were.
My craft meetings were unlike, I wanted them to be unlike any other craft meetings. They were probably, honestly,
craft parties.
They were the first.
Kidding.
They were the first trade shows, so to speak.
In that craft meeting that you invited me to, and I was not in the union, and I was not aware of these craft meetings.
Yes.
I remember speaking to a man who I did not know at the time, and this gentleman was a professional makeup artist from what I knew. And I introduced myself, and he said, well, you know, what do you do? And I said, well, I am an instructor, a beauty instructor at the Joe Blasco Makeup Center. And he said, really? He says, do you currently teach there? I said, yes. He said, so this is all you're doing? And I kind of pulled back. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, I've been interviewing a lot of the graduates that come from Joe's school, and I'm really quite amazed at their beauty applications. And he said, so what television show do you work on? And I said, I don't. And he said, well, we can't have that. You need to have credibility. I'm thinking, who is this guy? He says, my name's Rudy Horvatich. Wednesday, 3 o'clock, bring a model. And she better not be under 50, and then walked away to get a cocktail. And I remember I felt like I was stunned, like I couldn't even ask him, well, what, or this and that. It was like a mission impossible. Here's your mission, time, place, model, and that was it. And I remember thinking, oh my God, and I flew my mother out and went to ABC. Now, I want to finish the story.
May I say one thing? Those of you who do not know who Rudy Horvatich is, he was the head of makeup artistry at ABC Television for 30 years. And he was incredibly respected, and he had wonderful people working for him. And so here you are talking to a man who you're not even aware of.
I have no idea of his credibility, his history, and that he's the department head of the entire ABC studios.
Right.
So I remember leaving very stunned, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Opportunity, opportunity. So I flew my mother, who apparently was over 50, and I arrived at the studio on time, and in his office, he had the full makeup studio. He had the big old-fashioned barber chair and the big lights and everything, and his office was in another room. And he came in and met, and he said to me, he says, I've got to go visit stage 57 and 59, set up the makeup, and I'll just come in and out, and I'll be looking at your makeups. Very just matter of fact. I was nervous, my palms were sweaty. I set up, I do everything, so I just start to do a corrective beauty makeup. And every now and then he'd come in, and there was a phone next to the makeup, and he'd take a call, and he'd look in the mirror, and he'd look, and he'd walk out, and I would whisper to my mother, I'd say, is he even looking at my work? Is he noticing anything? And finally he came in, and I was just about to finish, and he came in and he said, so tell me what you've done here. Tell me about the contour. And I started to go into exactly how I was trained about, the zygomatic arch and being parallel and the nasal area and the frontal. And I started to talk all of this very confident, terminology and truth about my mother's face. And he turned around and he picked up the telephone. I was talking, he picked up the phone. I hadn't even done the lips yet. And he picked up the telephone next to the makeup station, and he said, PK, Rudy here. I got this girl here. I want you to try to fit her in the schedule in a couple of weeks. Yeah, she's good. I want you to try to fit her in.
You're making him sound like Benny Lane.
I don't know, but that's what it was like to me. So he hangs up the phone, he says, good job. He says, we'll see you on the set. And then just left. It was like, he was busy, he was really,
right.
I looked at my mom, and I was again stunned, like on Sunset Boulevard.
You mean he didn't pick up the ebony pencil and draw a big line over your eyebrow?
Apparently it wasn't necessary.
Do one of these.
Apparently it wasn't necessary.
He did that to me.
So needless to say, I found myself within about 2 weeks. And I remember my grandmother, I told her the story, and she says, well, you can't work out of that tacky tackle box. She goes, you need one of those proper wooden cases with the nameplate on it.
You've got a makeup case.
You have to look professional. So I remember my first day walking down to the dungeons of the Gower lot of General Hospital, walking down that hallway with that makeup case, thinking, here is my first day.
That's right.
And that's where it began.
General Hospital, PK Cole. PK
That's
Cole.
where I won my Emmy.
God rest her soul.
1985.
Yeah, she was quite a young lady.
Yeah.
Real gutsy.
3 years later.
Yeah, she was one of the first women in the business that really kind of paved that way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, that's an incredibly interesting story, and there's so much more to talk about. We're going to break just for 1 second, and we're going to be right back right after these words. Don't you go away.